Hello and welcome to the Economic Times Leadership Luminary series in association with HSBC. India today has one of the world's largest and most successful diasporas, and given the dynamic times and the current state of flux in West Asia, we are in need of an even stronger leadership vision to map the impact on India's business landscape. With that thought in mind, we bring to you a closed-door conversation with senior members of the government and India Inc. in 4 major cities in India: Pune, Kolkata, Hyderabad and Chennai. And we bring to you the highlights from the event. Our first city was Pune, where we heard from the founder and CEO of Kinetic Green Energy and Power Solutions, Sulaja Motwani, and the Managing Director, Bharat Serums and Vaccine, Sanjeev Navangul, talking about leadership amidst crisis. Let's listen in.
It's my pleasure to be here, talking to such distinguished gathering. This is a very interesting topic that HSBC and BCG and ET have come up with, which is leadership in the disruptive times. The leadership in these disruptive times is a very personal and a very practical topic, and not a very theoretical and a very generic topic. The pace of change is, of course, definitely magnified, brought about by globalization, brought about by digitization, brought about by the younger generations, with their own changing tastes, changing preferences, certainly leading to shorter product life cycles. So I think in a nutshell, I feel that disruption is going to be the norm. And perhaps this is the way there's a new business, normal in the business world, a business that is evolving. And we should think about what could be a plan B, or what could be a conservative yet very adaptive business strategy. Take our people along, stay asset light, keep the costs low, have ability to diversify business, whether it's supply chain or customers. And I think, earlier everybody felt that global markets were more attractive, but the pandemic has also taught us that local markets need to be part of our business strategy, because, there is more uncertainty on the global front.
We have started to understand that things will happen around, and I think you mentioned it in the beginning also, that this is the new normal, things are going to happen. And I always joke in the company when I talk to my procurement people that, look, there is nothing called just-in-time inventory. But now we have to think about just-in-case inventory. So, this is teaching us a lot, that decisions will have to be made. We will have to take a leap of faith. We will have to ensure things will go right. Sometimes things will go wrong, but don't wait. Please don't wait for somebody else to come and tell you what you need to do. Very, very big lessons during this pandemic, how human life is important. You have to respect the cause. You have to take decisions, and you cannot bother about consequences of decisions. You better do them. I think the biggest opportunity we saw was evolution of science. Yeah. That how can we adopt platforms much quicker than what they were. The way acute care diseases have hit us, we have started to think now what next can happen. And therefore, the opportunity that we see as companies is that, there are many, many more diseases which are virus or bacteria linked, which can affect the world and really create big issues. Opportunity for us lies in understanding that science will be far more acceptable, that we can take more risk with platforms, and the world is open to us. India was not such a high up in value chain in terms of healthcare industry. We were, we used to pride on being pharmacy of the world, but that's being lower in the chain. If we have to catch up with the world and say we are leaders, then science becomes primary for us, and I think our scientists have got a big fillip because of that. So there's a lot of opportunity because of that. I think, look, decisions are to be made. Consequences will happen. There will be good, there will be bad consequences. But as leaders, if we don't take decisions, we don't move. What if we don't take decisions? The cost benefit of taking a decision is always in the favor of making a decision, because benefit is better than the cost that you have to bear if a decision goes wrong. So all the more reason that leaders have to take decisions. It doesn't matter whether they go right or wrong. It's important to take decisions. I think there are a couple of things which I think whose time has passed. Number one was, the leader was expected to be a parent, an elderly figure who would be holding fort in terms of trying to impart value systems and trying to be the person who is mentoring, he or she is mentoring everything. I think those times are gone. Leaders have to be more accessible, leaders have to be more with the people, leaders have to be more in action than before. So that's one thing that is gone. Second is, leaders had to be more passionate and empathetic today more than in the past, where leaders could be aloof, leaders could be more rational, leaders could stay away from everyone in their own island. I think that has changed dramatically. And the third probably is also that leadership has become more lonely than before.
If there's one thing that we all saw in the last 2 years is that, there was no status quo, everything changed. So I think adaptability was important. And the second was to, take the humane side as well. So while we were all concerned about our businesses, I think the importance of people in the businesses came to the fore. So adapting the processes, adapting your approach, but taking people along was the most important thing. And I would put that as the number one or the number two choice in that.
Welcome back. The next stop for the Economic Times Leadership Luminary series was the city of Nawabs, Hyderabad, where we spoke to the director and head of private banking at HSBC India, Nikhil Singhal, who was talking about the bank's roadmap towards sustainability.
For us, growth which is sustainable is of paramount importance. And in fact, some of the stuff that we've done around this, not for now, but actually taken lead, is areas around sustainable finance. So even if you were to look at areas of funding, one of the biggest things which is a qualifier for us is how much is it sustainable growth as an industry. Similarly, another area of focus for us is green bonds. So we are actually happy to compromise on the gains, but this is a big focus area for us to get into early on in industries and support green bonds initiative. And there's been a recent announcement of the sovereign green bonds being launched by the government of India as well. And last but not the least, areas around climate change fund. So we'd actually just completed one of the launch of our flagship funds, which is a global flagship fund around the climate change in it. And this was a feeder fund to the overseas markets. But the initiative was largely to support themes around climate change. We feel that these are themes of the future. This is where, if you've all heard Honorable Prime Minister speak about the whole focus around renewable energies taking a large proportion of the conventional sources being replaced through the renewable sources of energy. I think that's an initiative HSBC is strongly committed to.
As we emerge from the pandemic and look beyond the immediate impact of geopolitical crisis, one could say with certain amount of certainty that India is poised to be one of the fastest growing economies in the years to come. The accelerated digital adoption and the flourishing startup ecosystem, I think both of these have provided for the tailwinds which were required for our 5 trillion goal post from the GDP perspective. I think while we are progressing towards these, last year Honorable Prime Minister made yet another very significant commitment on part of India that we will become net zero by 2070. This commitment brings along multidimensional opportunities and challenges alike. How we could unlock the potential of decentralized innovation through our startup ecosystem, which can help meet our sustainability goals at scale.
Today we are using blockchains to look at solving some of our supply chain from a vendor market perspective. And even loyalty is being resolved through blockchains. So for me, I think the biggest thing India has is getting technology to solve some of the things which we are seeing in terms of making us net zero in 2070. And I think good thing about India, if I now bring it down to India, is that we don't have legacy. If I look at US, today I process almost about 1.5 million invoices. Can you beat that? Today in India, I can do a phone pay and pay the electricity bill. US doesn't do it. So the good news for India is I think we can get that trajectory from by 2070 probably quicker because we don't have the legacy to deal with. And I feel that the more we invest in education in terms of skilling people and making it relevant there, I think our journey to become a talent hub will be faster. I think technology can play a significantly good role in terms of getting to our aspirations as a country and as a world. I think India is strategically poised in an advantageous position given our young workforce, but we have to invest as technology companies, but at the same time as the government machinery as well, along with the industry bodies, to make them relevant to our system.
Even as we are grappling with both the near-term and the longer-term crisis of this fracturing of the world order that we're seeing in Ukraine, we as human beings are facing a planetary and existentialist emergency of the sort that we could not have ever thought about with climate. So we have to unfortunately deal with both. We don't have a choice. In India, if you ask people, and I say this as an active politician, of course, climate change is probably the 15th issue on anybody's priority list. Droughts are not. Floods are not. The changes that are happening in agriculture are not. Those are right on top of the list. But people have not yet connected the dots to say that this is happening because of climate change. Because the understanding of the science and the cause and effect relationships, and I say this as somebody who's an engineer by training and who has a master's degree in operations research, and I started my life doing energy modeling. So to understand the very complex systems dynamics and the interactions between what is happening in the atmosphere and therefore why we are having drought in Bundelkhand or Vidarbha is not something that people can easily sort of relate to. But that's basically what is actually happening. The planetary dynamics, the complex weather patterns, climate patterns are changing with these, climatic feedback loops that we can't figure out how they're going to go. So even as we are grappling with both the near-term and the longer-term crisis of this fracturing of the world order that we're seeing in Ukraine, we as human beings are facing a planetary and existentialist emergency of the sort that we could not have ever thought about with climate. So we have to unfortunately deal with both. We don't have a choice. Now, what I thought would be interesting, and I have actually done this presentation many times to many different audiences, particularly to younger people, is to highlight how this climate crisis is not something that is an afterthought or is not something that we can just do on the fringes. India's entire development model has to change to deal with climate change. The way we have been thinking about development has to change. The way the world thinks about development has to change, because India has to do something that no other country has done, which is decarbonize, move away from fossil fuels, and develop at the same time. That is a very difficult challenge. And so as I have been thinking about it and working on it for the last 3 years, I've developed a framework. Having spent too many years in consulting, I have to have a framework after all. So I've come up with this Green Frontier framework. But what the Green Frontier framework sets up is really a net zero development model for India, which is we have no choice. We have to go to a net zero development model. So how do we do that? What should be the way we should develop, given that we have to develop in a way that no other country in the world has ever developed before? So if you thought Ukraine was hard enough, welcome to climate change.
The government should put policy framework in place and incentivize companies to reach zero, more green initiatives. Unless and until there's a proper policy framework which is percolated down and the governments incentivize companies, it would fast track what they're trying to achieve. See, I'll tell you what it is. If it is what we need to do, it is the need of the hour, then the consumer will pay. Today you look at war happening in Ukraine, so commodity prices are all over the roof, and companies will somehow pass on this inflation to the consumer, and consumer will ultimately accept this level of inflation. So consumer will also accept the price that the companies need to pay to get more green. I am definite they will. I mean, it won't be difficult to pass it on because it won't be such a huge cost, but it's an initiative that we first need to understand, not just understand, breathe this whole green revolution. And if it is, something which we don't achieve, and, the world is going to face the disaster, 100% we all will do it, but we need a policy framework, we need incentivization. This is very important.
Welcome back. Continuing his journey from Hyderabad to Chennai, Shri Jayant Sinha shared his views on the growth potential of the Indian economy. Let's listen in.
We know that it's 20% public sector, 80% private sector. But we have 65 million people that are effectively driving this economy, where people are getting a salaried paycheck, and then they feel like, okay, I have a job tomorrow, right? So the number of 65 million has to expand massively over the next 25 years. Amrit Kal, Honorable PM says we are in that Amrit Kal of 25 years. In this 25 years, that 65 million has to become 200 million, 300 million. That is a very central challenge in front of us. And I'll tell you, as a grassroots politician, 50-60% of the people who come to see me, whether they're young people or their parents, is about, sir, naukri dilwa dijiye sir, naukri dilwa dijiye sir. So I see it on a day-to-day basis constantly. But this is a really major social challenge also that we face. If young people, particularly young men, can't get a good job and can't get married, the amount of social, challenges that start to develop then are immense. So it's companies like yours that have to take advantage of these crises. You have to expand, you have to grow, you have to invest, and you have to employ young people. And potentially have to train them as well.
The next stop for the Economic Times Leadership Luminary series was Kolkata. Here we spoke to Dr. Santanu Sen, MP, Rajya Sabha and present State Secretary, Indian Medical Association, and the Managing Director of Ericsson India, Amitabh Ray. Let's listen in.
If you think what is leadership? Leadership is not a position. To me, leadership is an action. And if there is an action, any action cannot be a static one. Whenever there is an action, it has to be a dynamic one. And whenever there is anything dynamic, change is inevitable. What is the role of a leader? The role of a leader is to motivate people, to convince people, to try to bring those people under your fold. And what is the leadership? The action that you do to show that you are a leader is leadership. To develop further, adaptive leadership is very much important. And as I said, adaptive leadership means like you have to adapt with the changing environment. And if you are considered to be a true leader, then you have to act accordingly, you have to convince people, you have to bring the people under your fold, you have to manipulate people in a changing manner, getting adapted to the change atmosphere. So COVID has changed a lot. So for the global economy is concerned, so for the Indian economy is concerned, the concept is totally changed now. You are talking about digital India. In last 2 years during this COVID pandemic, even the person who hardly used computer in his entire life, now he has become affluent, he has become fluent. He is easily handling the digital media, digital marketing and whatever you say. So COVID has taught us a lesson.
If you study the greatest of the CEOs and the greatest of the companies in the world and who succeed and who fail, you will see that, the companies who fail or the CEOs who fail, they fail because they don't have the right vision. It is the execution in India from mobile broadband perspective. What is the penetration of smartphone? It is not even 50%, right? So when we think that our children could learn using internet, smartphone and tablets and laptop and whatnot, I can tell you a vast portion of our country remain uneducated over the last 2 years. And we as a society must focus in that area. So this inclusive growth is very, very important. Of course, what we have seen in the past that, yes, we quickly moved into digital, Even the small, grocery stores, they become the lifeline of our society. But I think that we need to ensure that connectivity is for all in the country. We should try to see that everybody has access to not only network, but the gadgets to access the network and have an opportunity to use them.
We are going through a very difficult time in terms of the pandemic and the geopolitical situation. The speakers, Mr. Ray and Dr. Sen, they were very, they give clarity to how things should happen, how leaders should act. And it was a truly a learning experience for us. We from HSBC, we would want more such events to happen. This tie-up is working fantastically, and more should come. One thing you should always remember, that for any business, you need to be present where the customer shops or where the shopper shops, right? So any organization need to be conscious of that. And with that consciousness, the power in India of traditional trade or the Kirana store or the general store or the pharmacy store is not going away anytime soon, right? So that segment still contributes to 70%, 75% of business for most organizations. I'm talking about medium to large organizations. Now, we all know that there is a digital wave, right? Convenience is of paramount importance to the consumers today. Time is the biggest poverty that we have today, right? And to that extent, the digital world is definitely growing fast, right? It will continue to grow fast. For all new brands, it offers a great equalizer, because now brands can reach out to the hinterlands of India without being, sold into millions of stores, right? So we need to learn to marry digital with the traditional way of selling. And that is the mantra going forward.
In the last 2 years, yes, technology has certainly accelerated the way we adapt to technology. Technology adoption was always there. Industries were adopting technology, but at a slower pace maybe. The last 2 years have taught us how to really get onto it in a much faster way, which is there to stay now. So be it how to reach the consumers and tell about our brands, be it interact with the trade on how to really facilitate the availabilities and the visibilities, everything is getting digitized and technology is helping on that front. So that is there to stay. Technology is helping us in communicating with the consumer on how and what about the product. The physical product has to reach him through the way it reaches. So the technology is helping in the way that earlier it was your mom and pop stores around you which was serving you. Today there are delivery partners who are reaching it to your home. So consumers are looking for convenience, they are getting convenience. Technology is facilitating that.
The 4-city series of the Economic Times Leadership Luminary series in association with HSBC came to a close at a high, with all the participants across all the 4 cities providing rich inputs. Thank you for watching.